We just finished closed session and there is nothing to report out. Welcome everybody who's attending.
Just real quick, I wanted to have Chris do a message about interpretation for tonight.
Thank you. Perfect.
Si hay alguien que necesita traducción al español, no más tienen que imprimir o encontrar el globo al fondo de la pantalla ahí donde dice interpretation o interpretación y pueden escoger español y van a poder escuchar todo traducido para ustedes en español. ¿Ok?
I will also add to that if anybody has comments on non-agenda items, please send a note to Karen Mendonça so that she can call on you to do your comments. If you have a comment on an agenda item, you can also alert her to that, ideally before that agenda item, but certainly when the agenda item comes up, and we will make sure we give you an opportunity to share your thoughts. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
There are not.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, it's me. And you know what? I even come with my own flag.
Very
Look at that. BYOF. That's a new thing. Okay, I'm going to see how everyone, will you please stand? And I'm going to stand up with my headphones, which is very interesting. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if you have not been on a board meeting during the pandemic, that is the most awkward time.
Yes,
so it is now past us.
That's the hardest part of the meeting right there. Special Recognition Technology Department.
Great. So we have Debbie Odetto, our business officer, who is going to speak about the superhuman beings that we have working in the technology department during, well, always, but especially now during the pandemic. So.
I want to see, is Collins here? Is Patrick and Justin here? Yeah. Anyway, that's our team of 3. And I think they deserve a big hand of applause for what they've done over the past 7 months. They're great all the time, but over the last 7 months, they have been nothing short of outstanding. They have made distance learning happen. They have made sure everybody has the equipment they need, internet access. They have supported staff with all needs. They show up every day, almost all the time with a smile on their face.
We'll take almost.
Yeah. When computers are involved, that's impressive.
They don't tell us our questions are stupid when they probably are.
And they don't even laugh.
They don't.
Inside, they're laughing inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to, sorry to interject, but we have not had the connectivity issues that you see in other districts. We haven't had the students without computer issues that you see in other districts. And it makes learning happen for our kids in this environment, obviously. And so it's just a testament to not only their work ethic, but their expertise. And so we're really privileged to have these guys as our tech team here. And so just want to thank them. Debbie, you have anything else?
No, I think Erin wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'd like to hop in really quickly. So, not only the infrastructure work that they do to make sure that every single one of our students and teachers has a working Chromebook, and, let's not take Chris's comment that we haven't had our ills, right? But they are nowhere near as bad, and that all of our kids and teachers have computers. We still have districts that don't. Colin, Justin, and Patrick are phenomenal, not only on the hardware side of things, but the software side that they interface with me and our teachers. And, we host, Colin, you probably know the number better than I do, over 50 different software programs in the district, from core English language arts material to math supplemental, ST math, and everything in between. We have an extraordinary amount of software that has to be rostered. Our teachers need to get some basic training. They do so much behind the scenes work that I think not even our teachers see. I don't see completely. So I want to recognize them not only for the hardware work that I think most people think of when they think of IT, but the phenomenal amount of software work that has to happen as well. And you know, they're not trained as teachers, and they figure it out, right? They go into the program, they start poking around, and they encourage us to do the same. So Colin, Justin, and Patrick, thank you very, very much.
Yes, thank you.
Indeed, thank you.
Bravo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Thank you,
with the
guys.
distance learning, besides that, they've also kept other projects moving along as well. We've just got a brand new phone system put in at Healdsburg Elementary School that Colin supervised and took care of, and they've been working on the security system around the campuses. And there's many things that are going on all the time that people aren't seeing, and they're on it.
Yeah,
All
thank you guys for the kind words. Just happy to work with two great guys that help support me, and yeah, I think we got a great team, and thank you guys for the kind words.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Excellent. Okay. Well, yeah, I was just going to say we definitely couldn't be doing anything that we're doing without you. So thank you. Moving on, celebrating our success, more success, Healdsburg Junior High Robotics Program.
I'll kick us off here. So Erin Fender, I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and we've invited, you can see kids' faces, right? We always love having
So awesome.
our kids here with us tonight. Students, very exceptional students and their families. I'm so happy to see some young people faces in this board meeting tonight. This is something that we love to celebrate, is hearing from those that we serve. So we have a phenomenal junior high robotics program, in my opinion, one of the best in the county, led by Miss Patricia Murphy, who's here today. And then last year, Ms. Robin Grayhorse, who's also here with us tonight, filled in. She's now a 5th grade teacher with us. And we do have robotics at FMC in normal years. This year, we're not doing robotics at FMC. But it's kind of nice. It's gonna be interesting, I think, Ms. Grayhorse, once that gets up and running, to have you on that campus. So I'm gonna turn it over to the experts and then maybe say a few things. I wanna make sure that our teachers and our students that are here with us tonight have time to present and really show us and wow us. So Ms. Murphy?
Hi, thank you. So I am a science teacher at Healdsburg Junior High, as well as the robotics and mechanical engineering teacher. And I love our robotics program, and I am very impressed with all of the hard work and the projects that our students put together. In the past, we have participated in the Sonoma County Robotics Challenge. We brought home some trophies and some ribbons, and I think we've done pretty well. Last year, we were incredibly excited and preparing for the Sonoma County Robotics Challenge. Students were building their obstacles. They had saws and hammers, and they were building the big obstacles to practice on, and then the pandemic hit. So we were unable to finish our robots. We were unable to participate in the robotics challenge. However, the creators of the robotics challenge and SCO decided it was still something worthwhile and still something they wanted to see happen, which I was so happy to hear about. So they put together an alternative robotics challenge, which I was on some of the meetings, and they just had some phenomenal ideas. They wanted to support our students as best as they could and make sure that they could still show off all of the skills that they have learned and worked on throughout the year. So they created this alternate robotics challenge with the theme of 2020 Perfect Vision for the Future. And it was a very open project, which I personally like because it allows our students to be more creative and innovative. So there were 3 parts to the challenge, and students were asked to complete one of the 3 challenges. I suppose they could do more if they wanted, but one of the 3 challenges, and to submit it to the Sonoma County Alternate Robotics Challenge. So we had 2 classes working on their own projects, and because we were all sheltering in place, everyone had to work alone, and they came up with some pretty incredible projects. There were 3, like I said, different components. So one of them was the virtual EV3 Lego Mindstorm building. So normally we build robots out of these Lego Mindstorms. Sorry, I don't have one, I'm not at school, but these Lego Mindstorm kits, and they create their designs, they build their robots, and then they program what they want the robot to do. And hopefully it does that. So they found a virtual robotics toolkit where students could then build a virtual robot and program it to escape their apartment. And that was one of the 3 challenges. There were 2 other challenges I'm going to have Ms. Greyhorse talk about.
Hello, I'm Miss Greyhorse. Like Patricia said, I taught one of the robotics classes last year, as well as technology at the junior high. And my students also did the alternative robotics challenge. And it was very engaging to like have them do something cool during distance learning. The other 2 options that they had for a project, they could make a Rube Goldberg creation to make a chain reaction with things around their homes, and to like achieve a certain goal. Some students had like it turning pages in their books or turning off lights. The third option that students had was kind of a free form. The theme of the challenge was 2020 Perfect Vision for the Future. So they could construct or design a virtual object that kind of exemplified the theme, you know, had like a solution for the future or was futuristic. And they could construct it physically with stuff around their home, or they could program online. And so they could use Scratch, which is a coding website, or they could use Minecraft. And a lot of our students already are pros at Minecraft, and so that was really exciting for them, and they learned how to make videos of it and share with us. We have some students here for you. It's the most exciting time of everyone's day. See the kids. So our first student who's going to show you and tell you about his project is Wyatt Drew.
Hey, I'm Wyatt, and I did the Rube Goldberg machine one. It was sending an email saying that I finished it.
Ah, clever.
Great.
And
I was just wondering when we're ready to see the video.
I think in a sec.
Okay.
Long video.
But I used a lot of different things. I did process and elimination or something like that. I forgot what it's called. But it's when you make something and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, you make something else. See if that works. Keep doing that till it works.
So,
should we watch his video?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if I can pull this off.
So while Karen does that real quickly, oh, you got it.
That's great.
send the email. Love it.
Yes.
Terrific.
That's great.
For the record, I didn't want to do that part. My dad made me.
Great job, Wyatt.
Yeah.
We appreciate you wearing the same shirt today so that we could see that. That was good.
I did not notice that.
Wyatt, in the long video that I watched, I think at the end you said this is trial 100. Did you really do it 100 times?
No, I did it like, I don't know, 15, 20.
That's a
Not
lot.
bad.
It's impressive to stick to it that much.
I bet your
Excellent.
family's happy to have their table back, huh?
Well,
We're
I
just
was
going
in-
to show, yeah, we're just showing small snippets. Wyatt did make a much longer video. Anybody
Yeah.
who's here tonight, if you go into the board packet, there's a link. You can see Amelia, who won top honors for her Rube Goldberg machine. Wyatt, Brandon, and Ashley. Brandon and Ashley are with us tonight. We're going to get to them in a minute. But if you wanted to watch the full video, we just, for sake of time and so we
No,
could
no.
actually talk to the students tonight, we're going to just show snippets.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was great.
Wyatt, did you want to say anything else?
No, I think I'm good there.
Awesome. Great job. Thank
Great
you.
job, Wyatt.
Wyatt did a lot of incredible robotics work in the classroom as well. He was one of our students that I don't think ever sat in his seat ever, and was always up building and helping and exploring and, you know, under the table, over at the obstacles. He was everywhere. So I was so happy to see that he was able to be successful with his Rube Goldberg. So Wyatt, come back to mechanical and engineering next year.
I will.
Okay, good. And then our next student who I get to have again this year, which I'm so happy about, is Brandon Hausman, and he's going to tell you about his project.
Just,
Good evening.
what happened?
Good evening.
There he is.
Houseman.
Getting things set up.
Are we camera shy maybe? Hey, Brandon. There
Brandon,
we go.
Brandon Hausman. I am 13 years old and I'm 7th grader at Hillsburg Junior. I completed this Goldberg presentation in May, and I used a string mouse trap and a bell and a bucket for it. And I can't wait for you guys to watch my video.
Okay, let's
Great.
get it started.
Sixth grade, Hillsburg Junior High, and this is my presentation. I will explain to you how I did mine. I had a golf ball, and I rolled it down the incline plane, and it hit this axle. The axle hits the mouse trap. The mouse trap set off, and it triggered the pulley to bring down the tissue box and hit the bell.
Awesome.
Great job, Brandon. That was really great.
Yay.
Nice.
Very creative.
Brandon is a teacher leader in robotics again this year. So he, unfortunately, you know, because last year we were unable to finish the year in class, he's joining robotics again this year as a leader, and he's working on some cool projects. He just completed a prototype machine that he built for class, and we'll be working on an engineering chair in the near future. So happy to have him, and I hope same thing, Brandon, come join mechanical engineering next year.
Good job, Brandon.
Great job,
Very,
Brandon.
excellent,
Very good.
Brandon.
Very nice.
And then our third video is Ashley Jenkins, and she will talk to you about what she created.
Hi, my name is Ashley and I'm a 7th grader at Healdsburg Junior High. I created a project called Greenville, and it's a town, and basically the whole history is they had their old town and they took it down and used all the materials to build a new town that was a green town, and every house has its own farm and animals, and they use it only a little bit of light, and they conserve the space in their town.
All right, are we ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This house is my favorite because it provides provide a lot of family connectivity time. There's a marketplace. Villagers can trade to get what they need, and in return providing what the seller needs. This makes no need for large factories polluting the air with carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. It also creates connections, and it will provide the villagers with someone to go to if they need something. Here is the weapons and armor place. This is a bakery. This is the nursery. This is the pet shop with currently only cats. And this is the large and farm animal store. In this village, every person has a shop, so everyone can support their family. All libraries are fun because they provide education and entertainment. I built this one outdoors because you don't need a large space to store information. The roof is for protection, and over here is the outdoor seating area. Right here is the outdoor seating area. This one is here to remind visitors that carbon dioxide. It does this by reminding them of the cars that once drove on the road and polluted the air. Cool. Pool is for people to gather, exercise, and swim on very hot days. Thank you for joining me on my tour of my private vision. This is a model.
Awesome.
I love it. It's
Yeah.
great.
Great. That was science and economics and all kinds of things.
Everything. That was impressive.
That was excellent.
For those of you who haven't seen the whole thing, I invite you to go back and start from the beginning. I like the one room, and then it gets bigger and then bigger, and pretty soon the house that we saw, which is what, remind me, actually, there were like 5 beds in there in one room, and then the kitchen, et cetera. Anyhow, it was just kind of fun to see the variety of rooms, and I was thinking you might want to share that with some of our city planners, but we can talk later if you like.
It's a little hard to hear, but I think one of the things, you know, if you talk to these students and you listen a little more closely and you talk to the teachers, you're going to hear our students using the language of a scientist, of an engineer or roboticist. So they're not only learning how to manipulate the hardware, the technology, but they're learning how to express themselves in written and spoken language as scientists, engineers, roboticists. So thank you, Ms. Murphy, Ms. Grayhorse, our students, Wyatt, Brandon, and Ashley. This was really fun. It's always good to see kids here. Any last words from any of you, teachers or students?
That was excellent.
Feel free to
Excellent as
join
well.
any of the robotics classes or
Yeah.
mechanical engineering classes if you want to see them all in action. They're doing some pretty cool things.
Oh, that's great. That'd be fun.
That would be
Yeah.
fun. Thank you, Patricia.
Great.
Yeah. I'd like to thank both the teachers for the way they're inspiring the students. It's really fun to see. And I know that it comes
Absolutely.
from your inspiration and your motivation and letting them, you know, just let their minds go. So thank you. It's really fun to watch. And great job, students.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bravo. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. At this point, any public comments on non-agenda items? Again, if you do have a public comment on a non-agenda item, please send a chat to Karen Mendonça, and she will, you know.
I do not have any public comment.
And once again, if you have a comment on any of the agenda items coming up, please let Karen know through the chat function. So moving on to the meeting. Item 12.1, student learning. And this is swearing in of our new trustee.
Actually, we
Got 11.
Yeah, we need to.
Oh, I knew that. I was just all excited to get to the swearing in. My bad. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, approval of consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments on the agenda, or do I have a motion to approve?
I have a-
Question. Yes,
I
Mike.
have a quick question if I'm on the right one. I'm on 11.3. Am I too far ahead?
Nope,
No.
that is part of the
Okay.
consent agenda.
11.3 GA roster fellowship agreement.
Rooster.
Yes.
Could you give me just a
Yeah, that is
second explanation?
And I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to actually request that we maybe have this as an agenda item in a future meeting, because there's a lot to this. And
Yeah. So in a
yeah.
nutshell, very quick encapsulated version, this is a process that SCO has done with other schools, so the County Office of Education. And it's kind of like it's not action research, it's kind of design thinking and trying to improve systems. And so we are going to be working in secondary schools at cultivating student voice specifically, and integrating that into policy. And so that's it encapsulated. Absolutely will be a board presentation at some point once the work is underway. It's not yet. It's on consent really only to make people aware of it. It doesn't cost the district a dime. That it actually, SCO is going to be paying us to participate in terms of covering costs. So we're excited to be chosen, and it's a great opportunity for us to continue to cultivate student voice.
Great, thank you.
Nice.
Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda, or do I have a motion?
So
I'll
moved.
No, I'll second.
All right. Everybody in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
All right.
Everybody. Arisa, yeah, thank you. All right. Now,
Students.
so we're going to swear in our new trustee, Vikram. Welcome.
So speaking of student voice, we have a long-standing policy and tradition of having a student trustee, and I am super excited to introduce Vikram Johnson to all of you. Vikram, I've known Vikram, I think, Vic, since you were in 5th grade. Is that about right? I
think so.
Yeah, I was his little league coach. And I can tell you, Vikram is an awesome tennis player, and those skills are directly attributable to baseball too. They transfer very well. So he had a great bat and played a good first base. But
This is why I was selected.
What's that? He's a great kid. I'm excited to have him on the board. I think he's going to bring a unique perspective and represent our student body well. So really excited to welcome him. And so we need to swear Vikram in. Donna?
Right, and then he's going to give a 45-minute presentation on.
Great.
Did we
Perfect.
not tell you that? No, I'm teasing.
I have one
teasing.
just in case.
Yeah. Bring up that deck. So I have the oath printed out here, Vikram, and I'm going to have you repeat after me.
Okay.
Raise your right hand.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the other right. I, Vikram Johnson,
I, Vikram Johnson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of California, of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully. Discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Excellent. Welcome. Yay.
Thank you.
I want to, his mom, I saw Pia Banerjea is on, and I just want to apologize to Pia. Normally this is a fun parent photo moment, and we're in the chamber and we get to
doing this.
Vikram in his tie or whatever, and we don't get that moment now. But Pia, it's a pleasure to have him on board. We're excited that he was chosen by his classmates to do this. So.
Yay.
Yes. Welcome.
Welcome, Vikram. Great to have
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
And the next item is a motion to allow our student board member to make motions at our meetings. So you are not just window dressing here, Vikram. You are an active part of this board. So I've got it over here. Do we want to read this or?
You kind of have it. I don't think you need to read it, but it is a resolution, so we need to do a roll call vote. So.
Right. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this on the board?
No.
No? Okay. I don't think I need to read it, but it basically does allow you to make motions on any topics other than confidential employment kind of issues, which is great, which is what, we encourage you to do. So you can also jump in and second motions and whatnot. So are we ready to take a vote?
I'll make the motion to approve the
thank you.
resolution number 2108.
Thank you, Jamie. Second by Mike. Was that Mike?
I think
Araceli.
Araceli.
Araceli. Thank you, Araceli. Okay, Karen?
All right. Trustee Kiff,
Aye.
Trustee Patmissel,
Aye.
Trustee Romo Flores,
Aye.
Trustee Velasquez,
Aye.
and President Del Rey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now it's all
All right.
official.
You are legit, Vic. So make a motion at some point. All right.
Moving on, 12.1C, equity and school culture update.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure at the last, actually, to introduce to you Curtis Acosta and Carlos Hagedorn, who are our partners from the Acosta Educational Partnership. I first met Curtis at the this summer. There was a Facebook hosted conversation around racism in the schools in Healdsburg specifically. And there was a pre-meeting for those of us who were going to be presenting or speaking, and got to get to know Carlos a little bit. We kind of geeked out on some liberation theology and other areas, and really made a strong connection. And through working with Corazon Healdsburg, they suggested we look at partnering with Acosta Educational Partnership. And in fact, both them and the Healdsburg Education Foundation has subsequently pledged to fund this for us. So our work with them would come at no cost to the district. We presented sort of the preliminary plan that's going to be a multi-year approach for ethnic studies last board meeting, and the board rightfully had some really good questions and wanted some more specificity. And so we thought the best way to do so is to have Carlos and Curtis join us today. So no further ado, I saw them both on. So Carlos and Curtis, you guys can take it from here. It's really a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much, Chris, and buenas tardes, everybody. Kwali Owali, good evening. Yeah, it's always tough to follow the kids though, because we got set up. That was really exciting, and especially robotics. And Carlos is a big Legos fan, so I'm sure he was geeking out about that too. So we not only can geek out about liberation theology, but and about curriculum in schools, but also about Legos and robots. Anyway, it's wonderful to be with you all today. I'll try to. It's tough. For two professors to not be verbose, but we're going to pledge our best to do this kind of quickly, and then leaves a lot of time, or as much time as you need for questions. And so one of the things that I know we have a slideshow here, so the next slide is a good one for us to kind of ground ourselves, ground me. This is a poem by Luis Valdez, the famous American a playwright who was a Chicano activist and still with us today. He founded El Teatro Campesino during the civil rights and human rights struggle, which connected to the United Farm Workers of America with Dolores Huerta, Cesar Chavez, and became a really famous, one of our most famous artists since then. So going on 50 years now, or 50 plus years. And so that philosophy right there is actually the three words you see at the top in Lakesh is Mayan. And as close as we can translate it into Spanish and English, you see Luis Valdez, this is a part of a larger poem, this stanza. In Lakesh means, tú eres mi otro yo, you are my other me. And so this is you know, indigenous epistemologies that are handed down. What I say, you know, especially back in the old days, I was a classroom teacher for 20 years. You know, it's West Side, Western Hemisphere knowledge. So, you know, I always like to give our Western Hemisphere some props. But also, it's knowledge that is meant to be shared, that is meant to be lived. And so this was always our guiding, and still to this day is our guiding principle for the work we do, both with the work we did in the classroom, and I'm coming to you right now as an uninvited guest of the Tohono O'odham people and the Pascua Yaqui people in what is commonly known as Tucson, Arizona. And so we're in solidarity and an understanding of the original stewards of this land. And so these indigenous principles are what we try to live, right? As teachers, working with our students. And we did this work here in Tucson, Arizona. And also Carlos did similar work in Napa, where he's at right now, with the Legacy Youth Project. And we can talk more about that later, but I'm just gonna read this poem to you because it's a way of also calming my nerves, because this was a daily affirmation that we did with my classes every period of the day. And sometimes they would do it without me, because I would be going to fill up my pot of water to make coffee, and they would start class without me because they were ready. They were there ready to go. So it's in Lakesh. Tú eres mi otro yo, you are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo, I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo, I love and respect myself. And so we can move on to the next slide. And I'm just gonna let you go ahead and, you know, dive into some of this, you know, information about Carlos and myself. And Carlos, if you wouldn't mind at this point, you know, I know we're gonna split up our time. We're gonna split up our time between talking about the culturally responsive history of education and what brought us to like using in Lakesh for one as a way to navigate a new way of thinking about education and the connection to the movement we're in right now, where California is moving, and you yourselves in Healdsburg are moving towards implementing ethnic studies. But this would be a nice time for Carlos actually to introduce himself. You heard a little bit about me, and so I'd like you to meet a super important person in my life, one of my best friends and a partner in this work, Carlos Hagedorn.
Thank you so much, Curtis. And thank you, Healdsburg Unified School District and Board of Trustees for having us present. This is a great opportunity for us to be able to share not just our work, but to build our partnership together, as we've already engaged in some wonderful planning meetings, and even learned from a student recently in one of our Zoom meetings with the MBA school. Again, my name is Carlos Hagedorn. I am a Chicano Filipino. I am here on uninvited Wapo and Patwin indigenous lands. We now call it the Napa Valley for those of us here. So I'm a neighbor, and I'm really looking forward to this post-COVID reality, because I would rather be at the board meeting in person, presenting to you all, and I'm looking forward to meeting all the teachers and the students once we get to that. But I am here in the Napa Valley. I'm a longtime educator trained in the ethnic studies field. I always say I've been part of the ethnic studies discipline since I was in my mother's womb, and I've been raised to be proud of being multiracial, living in a multicultural household, but also understanding the inequities and some of the disparities and the marginalization that many of us face in the schooling system. And so we're incredibly honored to be able to provide some ethnic studies training, and where I know Curtis and I are going to talk a little bit more about that and what that looks like. But thank you for allowing us to introduce ourselves.
Great. And so Chris gave us these two questions, you know, to kind of think about grounding us today. And we're going to do the quick way of, you know, we can, like I said, we could probably go on for hours. You don't want to hear us for hours. And But we can't wait to work deeply with your community for hours, that's for sure. And I can't wait to get back and visit you all. I miss you all deeply. We do also, we do work with the Sonoma County as far as with the health action chapters. And we also have a partnership with Santa Rosa City Schools. So the North Bay is really special to me, especially as a South Bay kid. I didn't get up to the North Bay very much. I grew up in Sunnyvale, Mountain View area. And so, so the Northern California is home to me. Anyway, so if Karen, if you wouldn't mind moving to answer the first question, what is culturally responsive education? Yeah, so I thought I'd ground us a little bit, you know, and I don't flash the PhD, you know, stuff very often. You know, usually I you know, flash the 20 years as a practitioner in high school, because that's more applicable to our K-12 teachers that we work with. And of course, my favorite folks to work with besides teachers is youth. But this is a really important question that you ask. And so what I thought I'd give you is something that we hand out to our teachers to kind of ground them in what we call CRUSH, which is culturally, community, responsive, sustaining, humanizing. And just so they have a little bit of history of why we use some of that language, that crush, we call it crush. That makes some sense to you all too. Crushing is very important in your valley and your county as it is in Napa. But culture responsive, this is not new. It comes from Gloria Ladson-Billings, the term, her and Geneva Gay, two amazing African-American scholars in the 90s came up with the term. And you can see some of the definition for yourself there. What I wanted to do is just call attention to the three tenets in front of you. And the second one, it stands out to me because that's where we were in the 90s, right? Students must develop and or maintain cultural competence. So competency was a standard, if you will, that we're trying to reach. And now that we're like 30 years on from this, or nearly 25 years on from this, and the work that Carlos did in Napa and the work that I did with youth in Tucson, competence wasn't good enough anymore. We wanted everyone to really love each other. In Lakesh is different than competence. In Lakesh is seeing you as my other me. And although sometimes when I'm listening to, like, you know, the rhetoric of an election, I can see that cultural competence could be important, but I think we should have higher goals for ourselves, right? So when you see those three young people who are sharing those amazing the amazing work that they did and with the robotics teachers and all that, you want more than competence. You want them to see their classmate, their fellow Healdsburg peer as something deeper than just, oh, I can either like tolerate you or that I'm competent in talking to you, right? You want them to see a real deeper connection, because as community members, we do have deeper connections than that. And I think that reaches back into all our family histories. The other two standards, though, or tenets that Dr. Ladson-Billings brought up are still very much important to us. The first one is academic success. You know, without that, what are we doing as teachers? And the third, and as a community and as a school board, you know, and as a district. And then the third one is to develop a critical consciousness through which they challenge the status quo or current social order. Sometimes that gets people nervous, but what we're talking about with Vikram being on the board and this amazing thing with SCO about developing real voice in policy, that's actually what that is. It's civic engagement. It's the ability to critically analyze what's going on in the world and trying to build a better one, right? A better community, a better nation. So I thought I would just demystify some of that. You know, that's actually what equity is, the work that we're doing. So the next slide actually is, it brings us to closer to this decade, which is the concept of culturally sustaining pedagogy. And again, you could see like those four tenets are very different. They're asking something different of us. And what's exciting about Dr. Ladson-Billings is that she's still a part of this work with Dr. Paris here. So this is from Django Paris, and him and Sami Alim have not only conceptualized but popularized the term culturally sustaining pedagogy. And so you see a different ask. And then the veteranas and veteranos, those that came before us, right? The scholars that came before us are still involved in this work, and they see like the need to keep pushing the standards to be higher, more human, more equitable, more to actually more equal too, to the tenets of our country. And so you see the honors of values enrich varied practices of communities color, supports and cultivates access to power for students in a changing nation. And those are some of the tenets that we find the most, that actually describe the work that my work in Arizona and with my colleagues and the youth here in Tucson that predates Dr. Paris's culturally sustaining pedagogy and the work that Carlos just completed in Napa Valley with his youth. It was exactly what we're talking about, youth having power to make and informed changes with us, co-construction together. And so if you wouldn't mind, Karen, moving it forward. So those are other people's, those are underpinnings that help, help like kind of ground folks when we're new partners like yourselves and new communities we're working in and new educators that we're working with. So this is actually our own trajectory, and it's neat. I didn't know what the rest of the school board meeting was before today, but you can see yourselves in our trajectory. You can see like all that's happened before tonight, before us speaking tonight, has been taking place. And that's this idea of building voice, building agency, building towards this civic engagement, building for the will to act, the will to change. But where we start is super important, and where many people, I believe, have either a blind spot or a gap, or they just don't have the perspective of where this foundation starts. And it starts kind of by looking in at yourself and then looking back with your family and looking back into history. And so, and understanding the ancestral wealth and the familial wealth that you have in every classroom in Healdsburg. And so that is creating space and guidance, and us as teachers facilitating the space for students and for us to guide them into figuring out who they are. And so that's why that you see that mirror there. Crush is like a mirror and a lens. So it reflects back on us, the educators. If we're here on the left, it could also be us as community members. As we develop a sense of who we are deeply, we can go through this trajectory. We take this lens, this mirror, wherever we go. And both things are important. We need a lens in order to analyze the world around us, but we also need a mirror to make sure that we keep reflecting upon ourselves and our own personal journey. And so this is the way we do it. It's a trajectory, but it doesn't mean it only goes one way, right? We bounce back and forth, and we do things more in a more cyclical way, actually, in a more which mirrors the way we are as humans. But the idea, the concept is in front of you: identity to voice. Voice leads to agency. Agency leads to civic engagement. Civic engagement leads to will to act. And the will to act in Lakesh, that mirrors the in Lakesh principle that we spoke about earlier. And so now I'm going to hand off the next part to Carlos to talk about our ethnic studies work.
Thank you so much, Brother Curtis. Always appreciate continuing to learn from you as you were sharing those slides with us. Curtis was presenting the CRUSH work, the culturally responsive, sustaining, humanizing work. Ethnic studies further deepens the work. As you may already know, there's been a great movement over the past couple of years in ensuring that the ethnic studies at some point will become a high school graduation rate. A high school graduation requirement that will increase high school graduation rates, as both Curtis's program in Tucson and my program in Napa have shown tremendous and wonderful results academically. Ethnic studies is really the focus of identity, focusing on our BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and other marginalized groups, LGBTQ, and so forth, and centering that around the relationship with U.S. society, right? Both Curtis and I, with the experience that we have around both teaching ethnic studies and studying within the ethnic studies paradigm, we've identified 4 areas where we are supporting our teachers in developing their own ethnic studies pedagogy, right? And those 4 areas, and I'll start with curriculum, because oftentimes we have a tendency to think about these type of studies within a curriculum mindset. And I'll start with that because ethnic studies is not just curriculum. It's not just a syllabus. While it's a critical part of learning experience for our students, there are other essential pieces that go along with that, right? So the curriculum centering students of color, centering student identity, being culturally responsive is an incredible incredible principle of ethnic studies. Additionally, the pedagogy, right? The art of teaching, how to teach ethnic studies. What does that look like? What does that feel like, right? Who are all the teachers in the classroom, right? Not just the adult, but it's truly a co-construction of knowledge and learning from the students as they are teachers, as they're bringing their own cultural wealth to the classrooms, right? And so centering identity, centering student voice, and providing them with that type of teaching experience. The third one is the community of praxis, and I think Curtis was really alluding to that in the previous slide around the will to act. And so ethnic studies centers praxis. It's a praxis discipline, and by that we're talking about, while we engage in theory, that must be aligned with action or transformation, right? And with reflection, right? And so what are students learning? What theory are they researching? How does that apply in a community? That community could be the classroom community, it could be the campus community, and the greater Hillsburg community, right? And then how did that theory operate with that, right? That's the reflection piece. How are our students feeling about the agency that they're exercising, right? The level of empowerment that they might be feeling, and so forth. And that's a critical piece. We might call that, community-based projects, civic engagement, and so forth. Within the ethnic studies paradigm, we honor this as a praxis approach. The fourth one that Curtis and I are really emphasizing with our teachers, especially teachers who may not feel fully prepared to teach ethnic studies, or perhaps they haven't taken an ethnic studies class, right? Let alone majoring in ethnic studies, right? We know that ethnic studies, you can pursue a PhD, at UC Berkeley, for example, in ethnic studies. And so this is a incredibly high level academic discipline, but oftentimes, especially in teacher training programs, our teachers don't have the access or opportunities to take ethnic studies courses, right? So with that said, a huge emphasis on becoming an effective ethnic studies teacher is the development and knowledge of self. And in this context, we're talking about supporting our teachers in looking inward, right? Or what we call in legacy, the heart work, right? Looking at the heart, connecting that to the mind. And it's looking back at our past, it's looking back at our history, it's looking at our own unique positionalities, our own intersectional identities. And it's really interrogating even some of the privileges that many of us carry or we don't carry, and so forth. And so I think we can go on to the next slide. And so I think this is the last slide as far as the ethnic studies piece, but these are our tenets of ethnic studies. We do provide definitions and language around each of these tenets. But as you can see, these are the main themes that will drive both curriculum, it will drive pedagogy, it will drive praxis projects, and it will be aligned with looking at self and the continued development of self, right? So ethnic studies is about identity. It is a healing and regenerative paradigm. There is a liberatory praxis where we're asking our students to engage socio, political, economic, and ecologically, and carry that responsibility, right? It's intergenerational. It's a relationship of power between Indigenous and people of color in US society. Ethnic studies emerges from third world solidarity. So looking at Latin America, looking at Africa and Asia, and understanding the diaspora of many of those movements and migration patterns. It's a community and culturally responsive discipline. It engages, its principle is social justice, engaging in decolonial work and honoring the democratic project. And by that meaning democracy, honoring and enhancing our democracy. And ultimately, ethnic studies is a sacred place. It's beyond the four classrooms. This is about providing an entire community with not just knowing each other. And I think Curtis was really speaking to this really well, but really seeing each other and really being there for each other and really practicing in Lak'ech within the community.
And so I'm mindful of time and questions, but we thought we'd leave. Well, I'll speak to a couple of things first, and then this quote, and then we can transition to probably some questions. Where we're looking right now at this is a pilot year. We haven't gotten started yet, although we've had multiple meetings with some of your youth, from Marseille Becerra Academy. And the teachers there, some of your educators, with HEF and also with Corazon, and of course with Chris and Aaron. And it's just really, we're in an exciting space. So I just wanted to name that this will be a pilot year, so it'll be a chance for us to get to know each other, and for us, Carlos and I, to get to know the community as best we can, even though we're in the pandemic. But we're already learning, and joining you tonight is really helpful as well. So I wanted to put that out there because I know we're gonna all want to talk about assessments and measurements of our outcomes and what do we really want to achieve together. And what I would challenge us to do is to dream. Teachers love assessment. There's never been an assessment that I've been too scared of, and Carlos and I haven't been able to, with our youth and also with the work we do, to fly over. And so we hope that we can build that more organically together than to us give you some prefabricated standards for yourself or outcomes for you all, because we love the fact that you're a small community. We love working with small communities. Wait, don't ask me to go to scale. I don't want to do that with my team, because we like to roll up our sleeves, get our hands in the masa, and to work really closely with the folks that we do work with. But we do suggest that there are some that we share our work with you this year at the end of the year, the end of the academic year, for you to hear from the students that we've been working, and the teachers that we've been working with, and to see what they've been up to, and then let that inform us as we keep moving forward. Corazon and HEF also, their boards are interested in us doing some training and maybe some organizing around those outcomes that we want to do together. So that would be another invitation we would make to you. So I just wanted to name that. I've also wanted to name, we've been doing this a long time, since 2013, and specifically in Northern California since 2014. One of the first things I did is go home after things that got strange here in Arizona with our program being dismantled. And then that's a whole different story that I could share with you as we get to know each other better. But I thought I would leave you with this wonderful quote from some Napa youth that we worked with back in the day. We brought youth in to work with some of the teachers at one of the schools we were working with, to see how, and the teachers were asking, like an alumnus, a new alumnus, who is at Napa Valley College now, and she was working with the school, and they were saying, well, we create a safe space, right? Where you felt safe when you were there. And she goes, but we're pushing the conversation from creating safe spaces to brave spaces in our schools. So she was like maybe 20, 19 years old. And you could tell, I'm dating myself with this reference, but it was like that old E.F. Hutton commercial. All of a sudden, the entire room of like 30 people got really quiet. We were all in different groups, and everybody was all tons of crosstalk. And all the crosstalk stopped because of how powerful that sentiment is, how powerful that wisdom is. And that's the wisdom our youth have. And can we create spaces for us to learn from them and learn with them, and to push towards this ideal of creating these brave spaces. So for right now, I think we'll leave it there and open it up to questions.
No questions, but I just have to say I was super impressed by the fact that number one is student achievement. Like, I think that is such important work that sometimes I feel gets left out of our equity work. And that is the true equity work, is when we are creating an environment and providing rich opportunities for students to be successful and be able to engage in that civic engagement. They have to have the tools to be able to do that. So I love that that's your number one, because I think if we're doing that, more than likely we're doing all the other pieces. Thank you. Exciting.
Thank you for the presentation. And along the same lines, Araceli, I think we as a board, you know, we're always looking at ways to measure success, measure programs, measure initiatives. And I know there was a slide that we just cut away from about measuring outcomes. But, I mean, I agree. I think this all needs to roll up into academic success for sure. But I'm curious from our two presenters, other ways to measure outcomes beyond academic. Do you have suggestions?
Well, President Del Rey, that is super exciting to hear. But I also want to respect the prior question from Trustee Romo Flores, because we do have data on our programs. You know, some really, you know, but putting that in a PowerPoint, it feels like our families and our ancestors looking down from above would be judging us a little bit about bragging on ourselves. So, but we do have some of that data that's aligned to what Trustee Romo Flores is saying. Yes, that's one of the first things I usually ask in a more informal setting is, you know, what else do you want to measure? And so I think measuring the health of your community, measuring the engagements of your family. One of the things about back in our story here in Tucson was we'd have these quarterly meetings at our schools called Seolin, which means one movement in Nahuatl, encuentros, and encuentro, you know, coming together. So we would pack a cafeteria with our families, and our students would be presenting the work just quarterly. You know, we would be, you know, the students would organize the agenda for the sharing of and the activities that we were doing and the learning. They were teaching their parents not only what they were learning, but things that some generationally we haven't, you know, stories and experiences and history that we were robbed through an assimilation process and a monocultural project that, you know, we're trying to adjust now. And so the reason I bring that up as an anecdote is because the next week it would be parent-teacher night, and I'd be sitting in my classroom having just had 90% of our families represented in our Seolin Encuentro, and then sitting pretty much alone in my classroom at Tucson High with maybe 10 to 15% engagement from our parents, but the whole school would maybe get 10, 11% engagement on a parent conference night where we held hostage your report cards. So to get your report card in person and then talk to your parents. So we were doing something that was more organic and more community-based, and the students were feeling it. They were bringing it home. They were in charge. So the parents were watching their young people change in front of their eyes. So, yeah, they were resuscitating hope and education. They were building an academic identity and a bigger identity than that, to a communal identity, a leadership identity. So those are the things that I would say, you know, give as a inspiration or reflection point for you all to dream about. Like, what do you want to measure? What do you want to see? And then we can build towards that together. Because like I said, the one thing about being smaller is that we could actually, you know, use our creativity and put our hands in the dirt, our clean hands in the masa, and be able to work with you all in creating that.
If I could just add to that, Curtis, thank you. You know, when in the program we developed here in the Napa Valley, the Legacy Youth Project, we were tasked to work with the most marginalized students, and to quote previous superintendent, Dr. Sweeney, who admitted, and this is what great leaders do, he admitted that there's a population of students that the Napa Valley Unified School District did not know how to serve. They didn't have the capacity to serve. So when they asked us to come in, that's exactly the demographic of students that we work with. And I can share that data at a later time. We knew that ethnic studies, because that's what we were bringing in, we knew it was going to absolutely increase academic achievement. All the data from Curtis's model in Tucson, which was probably the highest ethnic studies model we have to date, from Stanford reports, who studied San Francisco Unified School District ethnic studies, we knew that ethnic studies brings the academic achievement. We were more invested in the, you know, the holistic approach of the benefits of ethnic studies, right? So we were figuring out how to measure smiles, right? Which is a representation of self-esteem, which is also a representation of when what happens when students feel belonged, not because so much they're feeling safe, but because their identities are being valued and honored, right? And so when, you know, when we think about data and outcomes, we're going to have to look at the students to be able to also share with us what transformations are they experiencing through this critical work, for example.
So Judy and Mike both had questions. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
Go ahead, Judy.
I actually was looking at two different parts of that. One of them was to develop and maintain a cultural competence, but to, you know, as part of that academic success, so that they could do that number 3, the critical consciousness through which they challenge the status quo of the current social order. And I think that that can be measured, but when I look at academic success, it's more like just giving people tools, but then we have to go that next step beyond that. And you called it, I think, Carlos, the holistic piece. But I think that that's, you know, when we talk about kids, more kids in A to G classes and more kids prepared to go into four-year colleges, those are tools to me to get to challenging the status quo. I mean, this is a political statement on my part right now, but I think that we are in a position right now to challenge the current status quo, and that our young people across this country are challenging that. And what we want to do is to give them the tools to be able to do that. And then down in the next one, what is ethnic studies in that? Again, it supports and cultivates access to power for students in that changing. So I'm sitting here with a mug that says, it's about 3 women, or 4 women, excuse me, that says inspire like Michelle Obama, you know, speak like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But I just think about this as a female and as a woman, that's also part of this. It doesn't do any good if you can't get the power, access the power of your own voice in it. And so I don't know what the measurement would look like, but that's what I want to see us getting at with this partnership, are those things. So I just wanted to say that. I really appreciate that you have those down there, because that to me makes it not a course of study, but a way of being. That's all.
I just wanted to comment on, I don't know what slide it is, but I think the ethnic studies slide where you talk about knowledge, because I was looking at these prior to this meeting and I wasn't really clear, but I appreciate when you talk about knowledge and development of self. I don't think that I can sit as a board member, I was going back to my teaching days, but as a board member, if I don't know who I am, how can I know who you are, or other board members or administration, more importantly, our kids? So I am very pleased to understand that, because I always thought it was more just about, you know, a kid learning who he is, which is entirely important. But I do not think, and I praise you, and I am very interested to see how you do this, to get the adults to understand who they are, their history, their knowledge, and the history of society, if you will, and their piece in our educational system, And to that end, I know that we are asking our superintendent to engage in this. It's one of his goals, if I can speak that out loud. But I also think that we as board members need to come together as a board. I'm not sure open session is appropriate, but perhaps to have a conversation about who we are as individuals, as educators, and how we see our what we're asking of our district administration and our teachers, and ultimately, how do we serve our kids? How do we understand who we are, and how do we move forward in this very important thing? And it's, you know, I go past, it's not just about ethnicity, but it's certainly about race. But it's, and you say it so well, and I'm really pleased to hear it. If I do something to me, I do it to you. If I do it to you, I do it to me. And look forward to seeing how it works. I want to see you. I want to see you in action. I guess is part of it too. But I'd like to be part of that action, at least at our level.
I can interject a little bit. We have talked, Curtis and Carlos and I, about having some board training into this. And in fact, Curtis was a member of the Napa Valley or the Napa Unified School District. So he appreciates where you guys are sitting and what you do on behalf of the students and kind of how to approach it. So we'll be bringing him in and we'll be having that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. And I want to actually say one last thing from my perspective. I got a text in the middle of all this from Crystal Lopez, who is an incoming board member. She will be seated on the board in December. I don't know how old Crystal is. I know I was her high school principal not very long ago. She just graduated from Sonoma State. And talk about this idea of praxis and civic engagement. She was inspired, Curtis, she asked me to tell you this. She was inspired by your work somewhere, I don't know where, pursued a degree in ethnic studies, and now as a 20-something-year-old, early 20s, is going to be a school board member, really bringing the Latina voice to our school board. So really excited about that. And it's a great example of exactly what you guys are talking about. So.
Yeah, let's start measuring that right now.
Yeah.
I think that fits into what Trustee Velasquez was saying too. Is the idea of youth participatory measurements and it's wonderful to have Vikram here, but I'm sure Vikram would love to have 15 of his homies, around and participating in your board meeting on a regular basis. And that's something definitely I saw here at home. Once our students understood who they were, to go back to the importance of grounding ourselves that way, is they can, and then they start to understand this education's for them, right? Because they feel like that's their space. Then what comes from there is if we do it right, is cultivating that voice, cultivating that agency for this youth to be real partners and leaders in how we move as a community, how we move as a school district, how we move as a school and a class. And yes, we're excited to do all this work with you all. Open invites. We'd love to have board members with our teachers in the professional development we do, but we would love to have an opportunity to work with you all specifically too.
Excellent.
Thank you both for being here. We really appreciate your time and your expertise, and looking forward to the work together. So, nos vemos pronto.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I've got the wrong page. I was so engaged. I don't know what I did with my papers. What did I do with my papers? Whatever the next item. Thank you. That is so funny.
So it's the North Bay Children's Center, and it's my pleasure to introduce you. Susan Gilmore, who is the CEO, I think. I don't know what your title is exactly, of North Bay Children's Center. And then I see we have on here, and I don't know everybody, but I know Christina Sisick and Nicole Porter, who are both involved. And then I believe Paige, are you part of this too? Yeah, Paige Newton, who's on there also. So I just want to preface by saying, we've been impressed with the work North Bay's done. over the last few years as we've partnered with them. But I want to reiterate how impressed I have been with their reopening during COVID. They are providing a tremendous service to our district. They got online very quickly last spring once it was legal to do so, followed all the guidelines to a T. And thankfully, we've only had a few instances where we had to even worry about a potential outbreak, and it's due to their expertise. And even when there is a concern, they're covering it really well, very quickly, and with everybody's safety in mind. So kudos to you all for that. It is not easy work, I know, and I really appreciate the partnership. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan and her team, and they're going to talk about how things are going on the Fitch Mountain campus.
Thank you, Chris. And that is a really hard act to follow. I mean, the kids are hard enough. But, Carlos and Curtis and I had the opportunity to see them present at a Cradle to Career Operations team meeting not too long ago. And I'm so excited that our community, our county, is really embracing the work that they're doing at many different levels throughout education, all of our systems. So good, kudos to you. You've introduced the team. Christina, Paige, and Nicole and I are really excited to be here tonight. So we work with we're on the front end of everything that you do with our 3 and 4-year-olds. So anyway, North Bay Children's Center, we are a leader in early care and education. And it's our mission to ensure that all children, particularly our most vulnerable, have access to those critical early learning experiences that lay the foundation for lifelong success. And we currently partner with 6 school districts, and we serve over 600 children at 16, there's a lot of sixes here, at 16 locations between Marin and Sonoma County. And so we have been partnering with HUSD since 2017. And we, when we began our partnership, when we came on board, there was already a preschool in place and with a contract, a state contract. And that contract was to support half-day preschool care for 30 preschoolers, part day, part year. And since then, we've worked really closely with this district, which and you are an amazing district to work with. We have more than doubled the contract amount from this California Department of Education. And we are now serving 69 children on a daily basis. We have a program that has 39 full day year-round students and then 30 half-day students in our part-day program. So we've really expanded and opened up this important service for the broader community. And we're not done yet, right, Chris? We are still pursuing state contracts to support more preschoolers and perhaps toddler care. Not only are we bringing that really important early education focus to Fitch Mountain, where we're providing childcare for these parents, but we're also looking at what these kids need to be successful academically and to have that seamless transition to your kindergarten program and be able to work closely with your instructors on ensuring school readiness. We are, the numbers that I gave you were our pre-COVID numbers. As you know, the childcare industry has been really impacted by COVID. This is an industry that is had its challenges long before the pandemic. And unfortunately for Sonoma County, Marin County, the rest of the nation, we have lost a significant number of licensed childcare slots. But in Sonoma County, only we've lost 57% of our licensed childcare slots in Sonoma County, and only 45% of our childcare centers in Sonoma County have reopened since this this crisis began, and that is primarily because of the group size regulations and policies that Chris alluded to that we have to follow now, which makes it really difficult to pencil out budgetarily for childcare. We are fortunate as a state-funded organization that the state is reimbursing these state-funded programs based on our expenses, which have more than doubled, and not necessarily the head count. So this is why North Bay Children's Center was able to reopen and keep these services going. And we are currently serving 30 children. We have 26 that come to us, and this is just in the full day year-round program. And we have, again, we have 26 in person. Mike, you have to mute. Oh. We have 26 in person, and we have 4 that we're doing distance learning support for. So that and that has been how we've been operating since we've reopened the doors. Is really Christina will talk about how we prioritize enrollment, but it really is for those full day families that need that year-round childcare, so that those families can get back to work. Our economy relies on parents being able to work, and they can't work without reliable childcare. And so our work has never been more important, and it's really taken a pandemic to remind us all of what we already all know, and that childcare is essential. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christina, and then we'll walk through some of the highlights from this past year. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Christina's still there. If not, if you want to go to the next slide.
Christina's muted.
Oh, Christina, you're muted. I can't see her, but.
All
right, I think I unmuted myself.
Yay, yes.
Sorry, the technical difficulties over here. All right, yes, when the pandemic and the shelter in place took place in March, North Bay was one of the first ones to reach out to our public health officers and ask, what could we do? What can we do to support? And we worked really closely with the Marin Public Health and opened an emergency operations center to support our essential medical personnel as they return to the workforce first off. And throughout that process, we worked hand in hand with the public health department, almost creating policy with them on what best practices are for an early childhood education program. So, you know, learning as we're going and implementing as we're going, and then just really fine tuning it along the way has been educational and an eye opener for all of us. Some of the regulatory agencies we have to follow are from the public health, the California Department of Education, and community care licensing. And even at a time where they didn't have policies written for us to follow under a pandemic, but they were issuing it as they were going as well. And so what North Bay did was we had bi-weekly meetings to discuss the policy, ways we can implement, and then how to fine tune our practices within our environments. So Susan talked about we had to have priority on who got to return to our childcare programs because we have limited capacity. We are only allowed 10 students at the very beginning. Now they have issued it to 12 students, and a total group size of 16 could be into those cohorts. And the integrity of the cohorts are very important. So people coming in and out, volunteers, those were all eliminated early on. So we had to create some systems. Talking about enrollment priority, so CDE and the Early Learning Care Division guidelines on priority first listed children with IEPs, individual education plans, children at risk for abuse and neglect, essential workers. All were the first one priority. And then if we had openings, it would go to the community. So within the first just 2 of IEPs and children who are at risk, which is most of our population, we already filled up those classrooms. So it was definitely a need and definitely something that needed to be supported. Working with the emergency operation systems, we were working with healthcare providers to develop what is the best safety practices in our environment. So some of the safety practices we've implemented is parents are no longer allowed into our classrooms. They check in outside of the facility. They have to have the children's temperatures checked every day, and it is logged and recorded. The parents have to fill out a COVID survey, which has 5 questions we ask them every single day. And if there's a yes on any of those questions, those children have to go home for that day. We also ask and really emphasize that the parents have to notify us immediately if they have come in contact with someone who might have been exposed or has, and if someone they have come in contact with has tested positive for COVID. And then if any child or staff member develops any symptoms, they have to be symptom free for 3 days before returning to work. We have our students eating outside as much as possible. The one area that we thought early on we were going to struggle with is how are we going to keep masks on 3-year-olds? 3-year-olds are going to put it in their mouth, they're going to eat it, they're going to throw it around. What are they going to do with it? But our teachers have done an amazing job of creating scripted stories, visual, clear expectations, and making it a less scary experience for our students. And our students are able to wear their masks pretty much the whole day that they're with us. So that has been one success that we have done. And these are just some of the few of the procedures that we have trained and helped our staff through. Some of the services we're offering right now are in-person direct service. We're also having a percent of our student population that's still on distance learning. So our teachers are balancing direct service as well as supporting the distance learning. So we have amazing head teachers over at our Fitch Mountain campus, and they create monthly packets and they create supply kits to help our families implement the lessons that we're sending home. They also create learning videos that they share through our Remind app and through our school's YouTube page. And we also send all our local resources out to the families as much as possible. And we want that communication and keep them engaged as well. We let them know of any food distribution, and if we have extra food from our Redwood Food Empire partnership, we let the parents know so they can come and get some food. We also, during this time, we're really working closely with the speech and language services with the district. So we might have some children who have IEPs in speech and language. We'll make sure that they are on their scheduled Zoom calls. We create a safe space or an inclusive space for them. And we work with that team to implement those goals in the classroom. Nicole and her team have also been working on if a distance learner family doesn't have technology or even know how to use the technology, to make sure she has time to train and support that family as well. Just like the district, we did a preschool graduation, as you see in this picture. This is one of our drive-ups, which was, fun, and it was just different and new for last year. Another area we partner with the district on is our emergency preparedness. Last year was really hard with the fires. We had to be closed for, I want to say, a month or longer. And But the communication from the district to us and us to our families was seamless, and we were responsive and effective, and we made sure they knew step by step of what was happening. So that's a little bit of the COVID-19 emergency operations side. I'm just going to reiterate what Susan said. It has been a joy, and it's still a joy, to work with and partner with Hillsburg Unified School District. I'm going to hand it off next to our Fitch Mountain Site Supervisor, Nicole Porter, who's going to go into the highlights of our program success from last year.
You can go to the next slide, Karen. So my name's Nicole Porter, and I'm the site supervisor here, and I just completed 1 year here, and I'm going to give you all the fun information. It was a really fun year, but there was a lot of crazy circumstances, COVID, fires, smoke, you know, all the things. You can go to the next slide. Our site really transformed this year. If you saw it a year ago, it looks nothing like it anymore inside the classrooms and in the yard. So first I'll speak about our garden build out. As you can see here, we had dump trucks coming in, just regular trucks coming in with fruit trees. The kids were fully part of the process. Here they're either dumping soil or mulch, and the kids would all help spread it, and just from the ground up, they built their yard. And they got to learn about the trucks that were doing that. They got to learn the difference between soil and dirt and sand. It's all different. You can go to the next slide and you'll see how it started out. That was what it looked like when I arrived here. And then the next slide, you'll see what it looks like today. There's fruit trees that are just beautiful. There's geopots. There's garden beds where we're growing lots of vegetables. There's a cascading water table. I mean, there's just so much that it now has to offer, and it's just been so much fun. And the families were also big in creating this garden. Another thing I want to mention is when the fires happened last October and the wind was crazy, it knocked our shade structure over, and I reached out to the Rotary Club through Jay Beckwith, and he got someone from Ruid Wineries, and he donated us about 13 half wine barrels to help us keep our shade structure down, and now we have plants in them, and it's just really wonderful. You can go to the next slide and you'll see the highlight of our yard. We have this beautiful willow hut, and it's actually living, and it has roots, and the children got to see it was planted, and they called it the baby, and now they just take really good care of it. And you can go to the next slide, you'll see they really enjoy it. It's absolutely beautiful. They have a lot of pride in taking care of it and watering it. And you can go to the next slide and see. So I'm going to talk about our culture of health here. So having such a big garden really helps the children to understand the culture of health. And as you can see here, they'll pick vegetables and fruit from our yard, cut it, and then eat it. And that's their snack, and they know how it was grown. They appreciate it. They don't throw it away as much as they would have before. Oops, my slide. I don't know what's happening. My phone's off. Oh my goodness. Sorry. I turned my phone off.
Funny.
So yes, so they cut their own fruit and vegetables, and they're just becoming really responsible. You can go to the next slide. The families are also very involved in the garden. They come to school to pick up their child, and they'll harvest the food. We prep boxes for them to take home, as you can see in the next slide. The children collect it. They'll prep the boxes. The parents know they can take it with them to go home. And they just have a lot of pride in bringing that home and knowing that they grew that from scratch, and now they can take it home. The children tend to the garden every day, and just like you can see here, they'll either bring it home or we'll eat it for snack. And it's just it's become a really amazing community here, just even here. And I've had teachers walk by and say, I want to go hang out in your garden, and it's welcome to come over. You can go to the next slide. And so this is a daily vision, and you see it every day. They have that very specific basket, and they'll go out and collect it. They know when things are ready. You can see some gross motor there picking up the pumpkin. That was just the other day. And then they cut it open, they eat it, they also study it. Now they're learning about what a pumpkin is. You can go to the next slide. So I do want to point out some of our partners, because this all didn't just happen on its own. We really appreciate our community partners. We had Redwood Empire Food Bank gave us a lot of fruits and veggies before our garden was growing. The 20s and 30s Club donated 8 beautiful wood tables for the children outside, so they enjoy their food outside most of the time now. We have Jay Beckwith. He helps us with a lot of contacts, getting us the Rotary Club support in anything we need. We also have our families here that are attending and a community around us. We did have a really successful yard sale this year because we had the portable buildings were being torn down. So I partnered with Erica to sell a lot of the things that are in there and raise money so we could get a shed. And the community also gave us a lot of donations and really became a part of that yard sale. And that was a great success. So the next slide, I'll jump into the fun curriculum alignment. So I met with Jeff Franey. He's the principal at HES, the kindergarten. I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page regarding curriculum, what they're expected to learn and know by kindergarten, by HIT standards, and I wanted him to be aware of what we had in place. We do have the DRDPs, we do ASQs, we do referrals, make sure our conferences are going to be shared with the kindergarten teachers so they get a full picture of what the children are like before they even get to meet them. We also had a really big focus this year on language development, and I'm not sure if some of you are really familiar, but handwriting without tears is a beautiful tool to help make it a nice process for them. And then another one is TALK, T-A-L-L-K, and it stands for Teachers Acquiring Language Learner Knowledge, because we do have a lot of dual language learners. Almost all of our students are. So it's really important that we cater to that and honor that and make sure that they become a confident language learner in all. And I'm a coach for that program, so very excited to keep using that this year. What else did we do? The teachers are also doing, I don't know if you're familiar with this either, but Teaching Pyramid, and it's a really wonderful training about social emotional relationships. And if you have a good relationship, you're gonna have a strong child that's confident and can really learn and embrace. And another one that we're just now starting, it's partnering with Sonoma State University, and it's called One Small Square, and it's about how to teach science to children in a really impactful way. And so we're just starting that right now, but we're going into our second year with the Teaching Pyramid. So we have a lot of professional development we're still building. You can go to the next slide, Karen. So we also partnered when I came here, I guess they already had a relationship with the high school. And so John Camp is the teacher, and he reached out to me, and it was such a really wonderful program. The high school students that are taking a child development class would walk over and spend about an hour or two, and they would watch how we did circle, learn about writing curriculum and performing it. And here you have Sammy teaching them a game that I played at circle, and you can go to the next slide. And they're also teaching them another game, and they were fully involved. They really enjoyed coming, and it was just, it's too bad that we can't keep that going right now, but it was great to show young people, you know, this is a great field, and you're gonna be wonderful if you do it. So overall, it was a really successful year, built really strong relationships. I know I connected with Erin a lot, and Erica, I work with her a lot, and Jeff, and it's just wonderful relationships were built. So I'm very proud. So now Susan will talk more about our plans moving forward.
Okay, so we have used this slide before, but it's one of my favorite because these are the binoculars that the children made, and they are looking ahead through their toilet paper roll binoculars. So we are great recyclers as well. we could repurpose anything. Thank you, my team. You guys are awesome. And it really is about having incredible committed teachers and making sure that we have that professional development opportunity that's consistent, that's ongoing, and really supports everything that we know about how young children learn. So this year, looking forward, we're looking forward to completing our Playscape plan. That's been a really exciting project. We've been talking with the district since we started about wanting to do this and introducing this concept. And in fact, we've been in conversation with Erica about a bigger project with a school garden that is for all the students at Fitch Mountain, which will be really wonderful to just extend the program that we're doing and serve more families in partnership with the Fitch Mountain team. And we also, as I alluded to before, are always looking for how to bring more resource to this program, to this school site, to this community. And part of what we do is really keep an eye on what's going to be available through the California Department of Education as far as additional funds are concerned. And we applied but did not get the funding. It wasn't a priority for this area last year, but we did apply for funding for a toddler program. And it would be, because this desperately needs that. And that's still a goal. And again, when we talk about a partnership with our school partners, we use Hillsburg as an example, because this is a partnership at every level with the community, with school leadership, and with your teachers, the boots on the ground. We truly are really involved and engaged with everybody at HUSD. And I have to say, one of the things that we will continue is with our outreach efforts. And I have to just say, Erin Fender, you are amazing to work with, and, to help us with our outreach and really identify those families who need childcare, and getting the word out through your own social media and newsletters, et cetera. And then we had last January, I think it's almost a year ago, our first community event in Hillsburg, where it was a community outreach event where we probably had about 45 participants, and these were community leaders that again linked us to some of these resources that Nicole mentioned, specifically around the garden. Everything that you saw in that garden project, we've been able to get grants for or in-kind contributions from your community. So we continue to need help with that, with those introductions about, people who may be wanting to, donate their time, donate materials. But that's how this has all come together. And we really do, we've only been there for a short amount of time, but really feel like we are really engaged with the community and a part of everything that we're doing that is happening at that school. So we'll open it up to Q&A, and then my team has to go to bed soon because we get up with those little ones really early. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for having us tonight.
I just want to hop in here really quick as Erin Fender. I cannot thank you guys enough. When I started in this district 6 years ago, our preschool program was mediocre at best. In 4 short years, these pictures are phenomenal, and I encourage you all, right now is probably not the best time. I know, Nicole, you're always open to visitors, but let's give it a COVID rest. But my goodness, you are inspirational. I am so pleased. My measure always is, would I send my own child to this place, to this school, to learn and to be cared for? And it is a resounding yes. Nicole, what you've done in the last year, it is phenomenal. And I can't impress upon our community and our board members the partnership that you guys do bring, and that it doesn't just feel like, oh yeah, whatever. I feel like we're in communication when we need to be. Things run smoothly when we don't need to be. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
I also,
very, very exciting.
Yeah, Susan, I just want to commend you for hiring so well, because I have worked with Christina and in the past, and she's incredible, super responsive, and I've gotten to see your program in Santa Rosa. But then I got to see Nikki also. Erin took me on a tour last year and was just super impressed with Nicole. And just, you could just tell, it was a day that the kids weren't there, unfortunately, but she just knew exactly what she was doing, had a great vision, and was sharing all her resources. The environment was amazing. And the transformation of that garden is just amazing. It's just so beautiful. So thank you for all that you're doing for our students. I do have one question for a question for Christina and then a question for Nicole. Christina, you mentioned that you worked with the public health from Marin. Did you also work with the Sonoma County Public Health Department?
Yes, when we opened Santa Rosa as an emergency operations center, we worked hand in hand with the public health department of Sonoma County. I would say Paige Newton was our lead for that communication. So Paige Newton is our area director for Northern Sonoma. And she and I were coordinating back and forth and covering all bases, but she was the one working with licensing, public health, and making sure all the regulations were being implemented to seamlessly open Steel Lane as a EOC site.
Great, thank you. And then Nicole, so, we just had this presentation from Acosta Educational Partnership where we really talked about the importance of identity and voice. And one of my concerns is always, are we creating subtractive bilingualism by not providing primary language? And I was just wondering if you could speak to how we're supporting the primary language development as well.
So that's really important in the talk program. Luckily, we have a Spanish speaking teacher in each room, and with my support, I'm helping them encourage the home language is your base language. You got to have that down before you can add on a second language. And with everything that's happening, we have a lot of trainings for our teachers to be taking to make sure, we have an anti-bias curriculum, classrooms, outlook. But that is very important in the talk program, and I'm happy to share more about it with you, but that's pivotal.
I would love to see that. So
yeah, I can send you an email.
Thank you. But thank you for just creating a very solid program for our students. And yeah, that was my only I'm hoping they're doing some primary language support, because I really believe it's important that we're creating emerging bilingual students. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Any other questions from other board members?
No, just great. I love the garden.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I will say that you are providing a critical need to our community and doing it incredibly well. The garden is beautiful, and of course, healthfulness and nutrition and being able to nourish yourself is one of my, pet projects. And so it's wonderful to see the little plastic knives, and I love hearing, and of course it's true that they eat it when they grow it, right? At home, it's like, but boy, when they grow it, they're all over it. And the idea of them taking that home and being proud of it with their family is just brilliant. So that's fantastic. And actually, I think that garden is probably a great foundation for the science that you're looking at adding on, which is also great. So thank you so much for all you do. It's just happy little faces there. It's wonderful to see.
If I can just add on to that, that was something very exciting for North Bay Children's Center is we just recently licensed our Garden of Eden program, and we are now working, we've actually sold our first license, and we're working with Easter Seals, Southern California. And this program will eventually reach another 800 children in Southern California. And we've developed, again, this curriculum that is fully integrated into a child development classroom. And now we're doing it externally. So we, and again, this is something that we are showcasing at, Fitch Mountain. So it's very exciting for us.
Congratulations.
So I just wanted to say how much I appreciate this spreading out into the grades 3 to 5 at Fitch Mountain School, because we've struggled for years having a garden there, and I can see it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
happen.
I just want to say thank you again, Susan and Christina and Nicole and Paige. You guys, like I said at the beginning, like everybody has said, you're doing a phenomenal job every day, and particularly during the pandemic. You know,
Yes.
we see you as a model program, honestly, in terms of keeping our kids safe and being on top of things. So kudos and thank you so much for all that you do for our community.
Yes, thank you.
Quite a transformation. It's very inspiring. It's exciting. Feel free to come to my backyard anytime and do the same.
It'll cost you.
I'll pay. I'll pay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing the presentation tonight. Okay, it's not as less cute faces in the Title I program presentation, but
Yeah, they're cute.
over to you, Erin, but very important nonetheless.
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep things moving here pretty quickly. Most of this is not new news, particularly to trustees. Just a reminder that you know, in 2015, when ESSA became law, we no longer were required to do the separate LEA plan. This is all part of the local control funding formula and all part of our LCAP. However, it's kind of good practice to speak specifically about Title I and Title III. This is not required. You're not approving anything. This is informational. And we didn't do an LCAP this past year. So I felt like this was probably a little more important to keep up, that we continue to do this, to report specifically on Title I and Title III funds. I am going to try to go fairly quickly here to keep the night going. It is getting long. We've had a lot of great presentations. So stop me if I'm going too fast. So reminder, Title I is federal funds that we get in order to support low-income families. We use our Title I funds at Healdsburg Elementary and Marcy Becerra, and I'll talk about why in just a minute. We use them school-wide. They're not targeted, but we're allowed to use Title I school-wide at Marcy Becerra and Healdsburg Elementary because 40% or more of the students in those schools are low income. Next slide. So this is a new slide. Those of you who are long-term trustees, you see this data in many other reports, but we thought we'd pull it out here. We do have some changing demographics. So I'm going to give you a second to just look at this slide. Some summary here, you can see, as we know, we continue to decline in enrollment as a school district, largely because of housing costs, floods, fires, you name it. This is you know, what we're seeing in countywide is a decline in school-age children. It's, you know, precipitous in Healdsburg being the most expensive community in Sonoma County. I have not included 2021 data to this just yet. It's not clean data at this point. We're still working on getting some of the information that we need, and particularly families that are eligible for a free or reduced price lunch. This is something across the county that we're hearing because of the USDA grant extension, where we're getting some additional grant funds from the USDA, as are all schools, to feed any child 0 to 18. There's less reason for families to turn in their application for free or reduced price meal, or to let us know that they are eligible through CalFresh. So our data for 2021 isn't yet worth showing you and showing the public. We can revisit this in January, February when we start talking about LCAP data. And we'll also see some differences here as we see our two elementary school programs combined into one under the HES banner. Next slide. Just another way to look at it. So I mentioned that we use Title I funds at 2 of our school campuses. I think this shows us a little bit why. You know, you can see there in the green, Marcy Becerra Academy, well over 75% of the students low income, and then HES there in the gray. And so we want to target the funds at our schools that serve the majority of low income students. Next slide. This is also a new slide this year, again, just talking about criteria. So what does the socioeconomically disadvantaged, that's what SED, you know, we love our acronyms in education. So socioeconomically disadvantaged, or low-income students. How is that determined? So I'll give you a second to read this slide.
Am I the only one surprised at number 1?
No. Yes.
So yeah, this is criteria that is given to us from the federal government.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we don't determine this.
No.
No, I understand that.
All right, next slide. Couple of things I just want to make sure it's clear. Again, many of you have served for a long period of time, and sometimes there's confusion. Some larger districts that receive a much larger allocation of funding. So if you receive over $500,000, you have to spend at least 1% of that annual allocation on parent involvement. We receive nowhere near that, and we spend much well over 1% of $500,000 on parent involvement activities, but we're not required to. So when we get to the budget part, that's why. We do have to offer annually in the spring, as we're completing our consolidated application for federal funds, offer nonprofit schools in our region. So the Healdsburg School, St. John's, and the, I'm trying to remember the name of it up there, up the
Oh,
road.
Balash, Del Rio Lindo.
Yes, thank you, Rio Lindo. None of them participate in this particular program. And again, supplemental education services used to be an old thing pre-ESSA, so 5 years prior, and that's no longer part of this. So just probably can get rid of that here pretty soon, because I think.
Erin, would you go back and tell me what directly certified students are? On the previous slide, number 6, a student was directly certified. What does that mean?
So there may be some students due to their status, immigration or otherwise, where we find out through the county office or through social work or other programs that they're low income.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the data that we look at, annually, again, this is all part of the LCAP. We use the STAR, both literacy and math, and the early literacy component for our emerging readers. We added DIBELS about 2 years ago. Don't have CASP scores for this past year. LPAC, we're getting there. So lots of assessments in order to kind of gauge how we're doing in terms of student success. Next slide. The priority is that both the federal government and we hold for this, and that first bullet is the most important, is that all children meet state academic standards by providing targeted support. In a district that puts equity at the center of its work, we know that some kids need more support, and that support costs more money. And so this is specifically targeted to low-income students. That's where the money has to go. That's where the support has to go in order to get all kids ready for both college and careers. Next slide. I think it's important to look at our funding profile. So we're there in the 2021 on the far right in blue. Our projected revenue from Title I for this year is $235,000 and some change. The revenue has decreased. You can see that year on year. I inherited a significant rollover there in the orange. 6 years ago, we didn't spend all the funding. So that's the orange was rollover dollars from 14-15. You can see a slide there year on year. 2 reasons for that. One, as we continue to serve fewer students in the district, there is a per pupil funding component to this. And there is also some questions in the current administration about the role of federal funding for schools. So the current federal administration is not a big fan of giving money to school districts. So it's a combination of those 2 things of the funding going down. Next slide. So a little recap. These are unaudited actuals, right? This comes from Debbie's office, from the business office, Debbie Odetto. I want to make sure to the unaudited actuals here of where the money landed in 2019-20. We used the large chunk, we had just shy of 300,000. We used nearly half of that to help support the paraprofessionals that serve in our classrooms and now through Zoom for those small groups. We do a lot of small group work and targeted support, sometimes for individual students in order to get them the necessary skills and knowledge they need to meet the state standards. We also used it last year to support the full-time reading intervention teacher, so partial cost for that salary. We have 2 school psychologists in our school district, which is a little bit unusual for a district of our size. And one of them is mostly works at the elementary level and does counseling, and that's Leslie Charlesworth, so that helps. And then some coaching and blended learning work with Dr. Catlin Tucker. And then last year, you'll remember, we entered an agreement with Big Picture Learning, and this helped pay for the contract and coaching. You'll see there was a carryover there because we didn't get all of the coaching that we were going to get due to COVID. When shelter in place happened, our coach stopped traveling and the work kind of slowed down. It didn't end, but there was some carryover that went into 2021 in order to support Marcy Becerra Academy. Next slide. So as I mentioned, our preliminary allocation for this year, this number kind of goes up and down a little bit, but right now this is what the feds tell us that they think they're going to give us, 235,000. So again, we continue to use roughly half of it to pay for the partial cost for the paraprofessionals in the elementary school. Does not pay for all of it, but a good, nice chunk. We had to renew our Lexia software. We continue to use Lexia, which is an adaptive software for our students school-wide, but we find that it really helps our students who might be struggling in particular areas and different concepts in order to get that differentiated and kind of just-in-time support. We've changed the funding a little bit there. The multi-tiered system of supports, this is for an FMC staff member who's primarily a special education teacher, but spends about 20% of her time supporting students who are not special education through the multi-tier system of supports and interventions. So she sees, she sees students who don't necessarily have an IEP or a 504 and supports them. And again, the additional school psychologist counselor we have with Leslie Charlesworth. And you can see that rollover funds there is helping us to support the full cost of the Big Picture Learning contract, so that doesn't hit our general fund. So that's where we have it budgeted for this year. Things, always change just a little bit as we shake things out, but that's what would have been in the LCAP budget had we passed one this summer. Any questions?
No, it was helpful.
Looks good.
Yes. Very helpful. I do have a question. Will this be presented to DLAC, ELAC at all? I mean, I think.
Yeah, really good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks. And that's partly why it's bilingual. So one of the requirements of Title I is that we have a Title I parent meeting for any parent who goes to the schools that we use Title I money for. So the next step is the principals use this slide deck. They might modify it a little bit to make it a little less education-ese. But this will be used for a Title I parent meeting and then a Title I parent compact that'll be done by the principals of both schools.
Great. I know in past years' meetings, there have been questions about, where do these specialized funds go? And there you are. This is where they go. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Erin. Thank you, Erin. That's very clear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no other questions. We'll move on to Title III.
Okay, so very similar federal funds, all in the LCAP, but there's a history of doing a specialized presentation here. And I think this is as, if not more important, Title III funds are used to support English language learners. Let's go to the next slide, getting ahead of myself here a little bit. There is a small allocation that we could choose to take when we do that consolidated application for immigrant students. We have such a low number, generally, less than 20 in the district are truly deemed immigrant students. And And so it just doesn't make sense to do all the rigmarole you have to do to take those funds from the feds for it. So we do not take immigrant federal funding. Next slide. Very similar data used as part of the needs assessment, a little more targeted in that we use the LPAC much more. We rely much more heavily on the LPAC data. And then, you know, the last point there too is the BPST, the jargon land there, really used heavily in our elementary and our TK through 2 program, the BPST, DRA, and ESGI, in order to get a feel for how our English language learners are doing, particularly compared to their grade level peers, and making sure that, you know, we are advancing and accelerating our students who may not have, you know, may not have some of the opportunities in their home that native English speakers would have. So in terms of, you know, practicing the language and whatnot. Okay, next one. Again, I think it's important to see a trend here. Same thing from Title I in that this is this is dependent on the number of English language learners we serve. This is a little less of a fiscal policy trend that you see changing from the feds and more of a per pupil served. So we get X number of dollars for every English language learner that we serve. So you can see the downward trend in overall funding. Next slide. So this kind of shows you, yeah, I started thinking about, should we start cutting off some of these older years? You know, we're going back pretty far here. But I think it's important to see that, you know, we're serving less than half of the students that we served back in 1996, 97. Some of those big early drops that you see is when Windsor High School opened up. And they had their own high school and stopped coming to Healdsburg. And then you can see the downward trend overall in, you know, this follows the county demographic change in school age children. So we're down, you know, this year about 100 students as compared to last year. Next slide. This is where I think some of the funding model comes in. So you can see in blue there our overall population, the blue trend line. Then in orange are the number of Latino students that we serve, down to, you know, just over 800, and then down below 300. And that's an interesting trend line to watch for us. And I think it gets a little bit clearer as we go on, but you know, we are verging on, you know, we were a minority serving district. That most of our, or we are, I should say, not were, we are, more of our students are of Latino or Hispanic heritage than any other ethnicity. What we're starting to see here is a little bit of a change over the last couple of years. I shared this with you last year in terms of the number of socioeconomically disadvantaged students. You saw the number start to drop, and the number of English language learners start to drop as well. Chris Vanden Heuvel and I and the cabinet has had some conversations about this, and you know, talking a little bit with our county partners about how this demographic change is probably largely due to folks moving out of the area due to the fires, floods, and just really, really challenging economic times for everyone, and particularly for lower income families. Next slide. Next slide. This is always an interesting one for me to see, you know, how do the number of English language learners we have compared to the number of students that we RFEP. And Donna, you're always good about kind of asking, and we're kind of always fidgeting with this a little bit. So the RFEPs are the number of students that were RFEP'd in that last year. So you can see when we made some major revisions to our English language development program, we saw this big spike of 156 kids RFEP'd in a single year, kind of held around in the 80s, 90s. And then 2 years ago, down to 62, and this past year, down to 43. I'm not hugely concerned about that change, and I'm going to explain why. Part of it is we are serving fewer English language learners. So the dip from, and we had more long-term English language learners that we were kind of clearing. They were at the middle school and high school level, and we needed to get them RFEP. So now what we're seeing is we're RFEPing kids when we should, which is in, grades 4, 5, 6. Let's talk a little bit about that 43 number though. Let's go to the next slide.
Hey, Erin, can I interrupt you for just a second? For
Sure.
Vikram's purpose, would you mind just commenting just to define RFEP for him really quick?
Oh, sure, thanks. Yeah, and for the greater population, I appreciate that. Yeah. So RFEP stands for Redesignated Fluent English Proficient. So Redesignated English Fluent Proficient. So this is when a student has been an English language learner and they've met the 4 criteria that is largely articulated to us by the California Department of Education, what the criteria are in order to become redesignated fluent English proficient. So it's when an English learner has met the requirements, which basically the easiest way to say it is that they are operating as their grade level peers, equivalent to their grade level peers, particularly in English language arts. Yeah, good, thank you. In the sea of acronyms. So you can see we pay attention by grade band as to when our students RFEP. We were not able to give the LPAC, so talking about what those 4 criteria are for RFEP. The big one is getting a 4, earning a score of a 4 on the LPAC, which is the statewide assessment for English language learners. It's generally given every spring. We are not able to give the summative LPAC to our students this spring because of the shelter in place. So we started looking real closely at our data, kids that had a 4 previously and had met 1 or more of the other criteria. And that big band there in the middle school is that we did RFEP a good number of students in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade through the alternative process and their IEP. So there is a provision for the school psychologist and the IEP team, and thankfully our school psychologist is bilingual, Xenia Horning, who guides us through this. And the alternative RFEP process is when it's determined by the school psychologist, teachers, and others. Diane Conger plays a role in it as the director of student supports, that their language acquisition is being slowed or is different than their grade level peers because of their learning disability. It does not have to do with the English language development program that they're in, but it's more a reflection of who they are as learners and their status as being a student with a disability and having an IEP. So if we go to the next slide, HGH students, so you see that big gray band, right? So HGH students did take the LPAC. We had updated LPAC scores. We also took a good look, and this one thing I want to thank Xenia Horning and Diane and her team of paying attention to our students with disabilities and doing some alternative RFEPs. It's quite a process. There's a ton of paperwork, so some additional testing that sometimes needs to happen to make sure that, that we're all good. We are currently administering the optional summative LPAC to students who we believe will score a 4. So, yeah.
You're referring to.
Pardon me?
I don't think we're seeing the slide you're referring to.
Oh, the effects of COVID?
Oh, I thought you wanted us to look at the graph, the next graph, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. So we've got 10 students in the TK through 2 range that we're this week giving the LPAC to. We had about 10 or 11 from the FMC campus take it last week, and 5 from the high school as well. And so these students were selected to be tortured a little bit here and take the optional summative LPAC that the state is letting us do because we think that these kids are ready to RFEP. They just need to earn that score of a 4 on the test. So fingers crossed that, so going back to that old graph where we're kind of sitting in the 60s. We had 42, I think, this past year. We're pretty certain we're going to pick up at least another, 10, maybe 15 students that would RFEP through the testing that we're doing right now.
Erin, would you go back to that prior slide just really quick? Yeah, so you're talking about that gray band there on the far right. That's because the junior high was tested.
Right, junior high was tested, and then that's also a group where we, Xenia Horning, our school psychologist, had the time, honestly, and when you start getting into middle school, you want to really think about what is happening with this child and what services are we providing, what best serves the child in terms of their educational program, English language development, more work on their disabilities. You start getting into an age where they only have so much room in their schedule as well. So we want to be very careful about the programs that we apply and how we best serve those students.
I mean, that's a pretty healthy number for last year for the junior high.
Yeah, yep. And about half of those are through the alternative process.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and skip through. So this shows you kind of in a little bit of a different way of the number of English language learners we're currently serving out of about a little over 1,400 students, below 300, and then the number of students that were RFEP'd within that year. So it's not the total number of students that were ever RFEP'd, it's in that kind of calendar year that we're looking at.
So, Erin, for clarification, the blue is the total number of EL students, and the RFEPs is out of that total number. So looking at
previous, right? So like if you look at 288, 41 of those kids are turned into RFEPs
for the next year.
Got it. Oh, I see how that
yeah,
works.
It's
thank you. So currently there's 273 and 41 RFEPs from last year.
Right, and those are the kids that we monitor most closely, right? They just RFEP'd last year.
Right. But those are the new RFEPs, I guess. So
right.
We have more than that, obviously. But okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, like if you started totaling up those orange bands,
it'd be bigger. Right.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah. Thank you. I'll have another one. Next slide.
All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Something that's been really important for our district, important for me personally, is that every single student in our district has the opportunity to make an application to a four-year university. It is their choice, it's their family's choice, and we want to make sure that we give them that opportunity, that they take the courses and that they earn a C- or better. So let's remember that this is a series of 15 courses that are told to us by the UC that students need to take in order to begin the application process to the CSU and USDC. They have to earn a C- or better. So that's the other thing to remember. A D does not count. So we pay attention here to how do our subpopulations, particularly students who, and the way we do this is, our graduates. We're looking at our kids from the 2020 class, right? So when it says 2019-20, those were the 2020 graduates there. And we break this down in a bunch of different ways. So the EL, RFEP are together because by the time we get to 12th grade, we have maybe one kid who's still an English language learner. And usually those students have come to us as older kids. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to just look at ELs themselves as graduates because the number is so small. So we combine that together. You can see that we got real close to parity there in 2018-19, and we've slipped a bit here from 57 of our overall population of 2020 grads meeting or exceeding UC requirements for application to 46% of our English language learners in RFEPs. So this has alarmed us. We're looking at each of our students, and I'll say that the early data that we worked with the transcript evaluation service through the UC, And what early data shows us is this is not so much about course taking patterns. This is about D grades. This is about they are in the courses, they are having access to the courses, but earning a C- or better in all of the courses. And where we see some of that falling down is in the world language course. For us, that's Spanish. So getting a C- or better in their Spanish coursework, and then also in their English coursework. It used to be math that was our tough nugget. We've made some improvements to math. We've seen some grades getting better overall and access to courses overall. So we're paying attention and kind of asking us why, asking why. So I don't want that to just slip by us, that's a data point that we're working on.
And again, for clarification, if I may, the blue is overall, out of all of the graduating seniors, 57% completed ADG.
Correct.
And the 46 is really part of that 57%?
Correct, right. So a student is both part of the overall, but then when we look at just the students that have been RFEP'd, or I think there was one in the class of 2020 that graduated without being RFEP'd. Of that subpopulation, 46% of those students. And that's...
let me ask again, 46% of the 57%?
No, of all RFEP students, of seniors,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So the number of non-EL RFEP, the percentage of non-EL RFEP kids would be higher than 57. If you took
because then they would average out.
If you took the ELs out, let's just call them ELs for brevity,
right.
If you or the RFEPs out, then that other number would be tall. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out the numbers in my head.
Is that right, Erin?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you say it again, Mike?
All right, I don't want to belabor this. I think I understand it, but blue, 57% of the total graduation class.
Right, so we have about 130 kids who graduated in 2020, right?
And so 46% of the EL RFEP kids have the A to G.
Correct.
Okay.
You got
that
it.
46% is also in that 57%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're part of the overall population.
I get that, right.
Yeah.
So, right.
But what that means then is the non-EL RFEP kids would have had a higher completion rate.
Yeah, in comparison to the RFEP kids. Right.
Because then you combine
like
that
if
with
we said just
46%.
white, right? Like, so if I showed you.
Well, they would
or just
non-EL.
non-EL,
because they could be
never EL.
Never EL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but anyhow, the number would be large. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I got it. I don't know if it confused anyone else. Thank you.
Okay, next slide. So again, we're going to look at a summary of how the 1920 funds shook out in terms of expenditures. These are unaudited actuals. So we had $33,544 is what our actual allocation ended up being. We used roughly half of that for coaching with Dr. Catlin Tucker, who, I will say, wow, thank goodness we did this before COVID. We've had a long-term relationship with Dr. Catlin Tucker. She has worked with our elementary teachers extensively. She is now continuing to work with our junior high ELA and ELD teachers this year. She had been known and is now one of the go-tos. Her phone is ringing off the hook, known as, blended learning expert. So some of that pre-work that I've mentioned before that made our slide into full distance learning maybe just a tiny bit more palatable for teachers and students. We've worked with Navigator Schools, and they provided professional development for us, particularly on the station rotation and how to use our paraprofessionals much more effectively. So that was largely the PD that we got from Navi. We use it to buy software, send folks to conferences. We do pay extra duty to teachers sometimes when they work beyond their contractual day for special projects, particularly around assessment and or providing professional development to each other, a little bit in books and supplies, and then we use some of the funding to support ELAC and DLAC meetings. Next slide. So this year, our preliminary allocation is just shy of 33,000. We'll use the big chunk of change to support our contract with Dr. Catlin Tucker. This is out of request from the ELA/ELD department. They had a few days, they had 4 days with her last year. They've completed one session already. And I just talked to Principal Miller this morning, and they gave a thumbs up. So we're happy because we have a new 8th grade ELD teacher, Chuck Pearson. We have TC Peterson, who's on maternity leave, and then Cynthia Guig. And so getting professional development from Catlin Tucker again this year, and really trying to focus on how to leverage the ELA and ELD being taught by the same teacher, and that, you know, Catlin's an expert in all things online learning. She's one of the co-authors of Study Sync, which is our adopted curriculum, but really helping us to make that bridge between the ELA and ELD strategies and work that we do. We're using a small portion of Title III to provide coaching from Steele Consulting for all of our TK through grade 5 teachers. That's been kicked off and is happening online and virtually. And again, early reports from principals and teachers is that's going well. So we're able to do it even though it's all being done remotely. We had some early PD, you might remember, in the beginning of the school year from Benchmark Advance and EL Achieve, and we buy some software. And so we've got a little chunk of change sitting there unallocated that I'm sure will get used up here at some point. So
Can you remind me how the coaching from Steele Consulting support ELs?
Pardon me?
Can you remind me how the coaching from Steele Consulting, how that supports ELs? I don't remember that one, sorry.
Oh, sure. It's really focused on making sure our teachers understand the ELD framework and standards, and that, you know, that they know those documents, revisiting those documents. How does the core academic curriculum that we use, Journeys and Benchmark Advance, how can you use those to support integrated ELD? But then when we have our small groups for designated ELD, making sure that we're holding true to all elements of what is in the framework and the standards.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, that's what I got.
All right.
Thank you, Erin.
Good.
Very thorough. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
Okay. Reports. And I have to say we are at 8:30 exactly. So I think we need to just power through. Yes. Is that okay? Does anyone really need a break? Okay. Half report.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Sally.
Sally.
I was super fast tonight, but I did want to just take a minute to let you guys know about a couple of things. One is the emergency fund that we launched after the Wahlberg fires. We were very fortunate to be able to raise over $10,000 for the 5 families in our HUSD family who lost their homes. And we're going to be working with Chris and Erin on getting those funds dispersed to the families. We did have one of our donors that is still working on a promotion that they have been doing themselves that they wanted to contribute to this fund. So we're holding off about another week or so. But we're really excited that we're going to be able to give over $2,000 to each of these families.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, thank you. The second thing I wanted to talk about, speaking of generosity in our donors, as you guys know, HEF has never really done an event to speak of or anything consistently. So last year we really started thinking about that and wanted to plan something. Of course, we had 3 things planned in the spring that got canceled due to the COVID pandemic. And we've been rethinking, as everyone has, not just about our events, but really how we can be a stronger organization and redefine our relevance. HUF has been supporting the schools of HUSD for 30 years now. I looked back, well over $6 million has been contributed over the last 20 plus years. And we want to continue that and we want to grow that, but we also want to be a relevant partner when it comes to building that bridge between our schools and the broader community. So we have planned an event for the fall. We decided planning a one-time event or a first large event was not enough. We decided to do it in a pandemic, and we are starting out planning a virtual event. So it's a little unique. We're not planning something live and having to change it to virtual. We're actually planning it to be virtual. And we are doing the very first ever Healdsburg Education Week, and it's going to be the week before Thanksgiving. We have aligned it with the National Education Association's National Education Week. And think about it in 4 ways. I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting into the details, but at the very top of the tier, and the most important thing is we are honoring some very special donors that have supported the schools of HUSD for many, many years. I'll tell you in a couple of weeks who they are, but you'll be very excited. The second part of the tier is developing 2 teams. In sight that we don't have high school sports, we're creating a little friendly competition, and we have a home team and an away team. They're going to be doing peer-to-peer fundraising during this week. So if any of you guys want to join a team, please let me know. We would love to put you to work. The third component of this is the learning aspect, and we are featuring 4 different topics during the week. Some of you have participated in our videos, so thank you, thank you, thank you. The Monday topic is going to be about funding, how our schools are funded, and why we need an education foundation. Tuesday is going to be focused on equity in education. Wednesday is focused on the growth mindset. Thursday is mental health, trauma-informed practices. And then Friday, we're going to have a live stream Q&A with your very own superintendent, Chris Vanden Heuvel. We're really focusing on topics that we think are relevant today. And we have 10 to 15 minute videos that Kara has been working with Chev on. And I think they're going to be phenomenal, and they're going to be posted each day of the week. When people go view the videos, they're entered into a raffle for some prizes that our businesses are providing to us. And then the bottom and the foundation of this is really an effort to engage more of our business community. So we have reached out to all of our businesses, restaurants, and wineries in the area, knowing that they're facing challenges, but we're asking them to just support this event any way that they can, even if it's not monetary, by putting posters up in their businesses. And a lot of them are going to be running specials during this week. So when you go into their businesses and purchase things or have dinner with them, a portion of that will come back to support HEF and HUSD. And we will have a list of those businesses that we will be promoting during this week as well. So I know that's a lot to digest. I'm happy to send you a document that lays it out in black and white. And if you have questions, let me know. But anything you can do to support, we welcome your help.
Great.
Buy these adorable cards.
Yes.
Oh, those are fabulous.
Yeah.
Those are
They
great.
are
Going to be,
Already used to.
as soon as Kira and I have time to finish packaging them, they are going to be available for sale on our website, but also in some selected stores around the plaza for $20 a packet.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Great gifts.
Thank you, Sally.
And Sally, the educational week looked like so much fun. I can't wait to watch those videos. And I've been forwarding that email that I received everyone I can think to forward. It's gonna be really fun. So thank you. That was a really fun idea.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you,
So
Sally.
I've been actually out of town. I'm still out of town, and I'm not sure I got an email from you. Did you send it out to all the trustees?
We had an email go out today to everyone in our database that announced the topics of the week, and we'll be seeing
okay, I
them
saw that.
every week. You'll get sick of me by Thanksgiving.
Okay, no, I got that. I just wanted to make sure that I was getting everything. That's great.
Okay, thank you, Sally. Had a report?
Robin is there. There she is.
Yeah, there I am. Okay, a couple of things. I want to give a shout out to the tech department because my school computer went to sleep and the tech department got me up and running within a couple of hours. So I'm really happy. Here I am. The second thing, the second screens that you purchased for us have been a blessing. So thank you so much for those second screens. It's making it great. And your teachers are working harder than ever. And we are looking forward to confirming dates for negotiations. And that's my HADA report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
I actually want to apologize to Sally and Robin. We did not anticipate that reports would be this late into the night. So
yeah,
our bad. We'll fix that and make sure there's a break so you can go sooner and get back to family life here in the evening. So thank you for staying on.
This got me extra time to get the computer working.
Thank you, Robin.
This is what happens when we say, oh, it looks like it's going to be a pretty short meeting. CSEA. Anybody?
I don't think we have anybody on from CSEA now.
Vikram, I don't, it just says, I know, I'm just saying in the future, unless for some reason he was warned and has something he would like to share.
I have a few things.
Nice.
Yay.
Good.
See,
right.
you don't have to, no pressure. 45-minute presentation.
I will do it. I just can't promise how well I'll do it. So one thing that happened is that HES, they organized a pumpkin like drop off for the kindergarteners. And so the kindergarten teachers, Emily Peterson and Stephanie Colventry, just got money from the Rotary Club and Corazon, and they were able to get pumpkins and drop it off to every single kindergartner in their classes. And apparently they had enough for the entire school. So it was a really good thing to happen during the pandemic, and I bet it made a lot of kindergartners happy. Another thing that is going to happen is that the high school leadership is going to have a movie night for the high schoolers. It's going to be on November 6th. It's going to be a drive-in movie theater, so this way there can be like social distancing and anti-COVID.
No getting out of your car.
Pretty much, yeah. You stay in your car, you watch a movie. There'll probably be like radio station for the audio. It's going to be The Lion King, the live action version. And so it'll be appropriate for the kids at the high school. And it's going to mostly be for high school students, but because freshmen and sophomores can't really drive, their families are allowed to come. And we have to have a meeting with Mr. Halliday to finalize it, but it's most likely going to happen, which will be good for the high school students stuck in their houses 24/7. So, and then of course, with all this going on, there are some complaints about distance learning, and obviously there's nothing real, or like, it's not criticizing anyone here. It's just some things that should be brought up. Some kids are just getting tired and getting like Zoom fatigue. Just too much.
Yeah.
Oh. And students just miss structure. And I know for me personally, and a lot of my friends, we don't have enough motivation almost to do the work. And it's a lot to handle, especially for seniors with college applications and everything that's going on. It's a little bit more difficult. So, yeah.
We appreciate your feedback and feedback from all the students. I also appreciate that you understand that, everyone's working very hard and trying to make this all work. But we also fully appreciate that it isn't perfect and that there are improvements that can be made. And so we definitely want to keep that line of communication open to be hearing from you and other students about how it could be better, right? And how, right. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and Vic, I just want to let you know that we know how hard it is for kids, and every day we're talking about what we can do to tweak it. And there's some big things that we're going to be moving on in the next week or so. Hopefully that'll create some changes that hopefully make it a little easier for you guys to be successful in, and just create some wins for everybody in school right now. So
yeah,
thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it.
And
Yeah,
I just
thank you
want to
for
say,
listening.
yeah, and thank you too. I hope that in the future that the role that you're in is that you recognize it really is a pivotal role, especially now when we don't get to be on campus to see students and to talk to students like we like to do. To be able to be that liaison between your colleagues and your friends and the board. We really encourage you and welcome any comments that you would have. Of course, there's other avenues to do those communications, but just recognizing you in that position, and you have that is your role. And so we welcome and encourage you to bring those things to us. That's why you're a trustee. So keep it coming.
All right,
And
thank you.
encourage your classmates. The same thing, to use their voice. We've heard that tonight, right? To be active, to be involved in what you're in your world. And so this is your world right now, and it's everything to you. And we want to hear from you and your classmates. So please encourage that.
I will. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
And welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you.
Youth, how are you?
Excellent.
I do want to add though that I think it is super important. I mean, I'm a mother of a senior as well. And thank you for being a good friend of my son. Yeah. But yeah, I just want to really just advocate for bringing kids back on campus, staff back on campus, you know, as soon as possible in a safe manner. I really worry about the learning loss that students are experiencing. Zoom fatigue, tons of screen time, lots of concerns. And so I'm really hoping that we can find a safe way to bring all of you back and our staff back in a safe manner.
Yeah, I'll echo that in light of Robin mentioned the negotiations that are starting, that I think it's ultra high priority for us to come to an agreement with and to really find that perfect balance between keeping staff and students safe, between increasing the effectiveness of our teaching and education, you know, opportunities for our students, and really bringing these kids back for just emotional, you know, health. And so, yeah, I will reiterate that, Araceli, that this is a really high priority. When it is safe, we want to do this. We need to do this as a district.
We need to do it for our kids.
Absolutely.
I had my now 6-year-old grandson, who just lost his first tooth, by the way, just sobbing before the end of summer because he said, I can't see any friends. It was the emotional damage to kids is just appalling. And we do need to get the kids back into school in a safe way.
Yeah.
So
I won't
we'll
have
keep
many
working on it.
Yes, absolutely. And like Mr. Vanden Heuvel said, it's a daily thing. And I recognize that it's a daily thing for administration and for the leadership and I'm sure for the teachers as well. But I have very few opportunities to speak my mind. And I want to make it very clear that I am expecting our students to be back if there's any way that they can be there. That is not going to be, you know, overly risky. I'm not, you know, that's not what I'm expecting or asking for. But I expect students to be in the classroom if there's any possibility that they can be there. So I just want to say that out loud and say that loud and clear. And I want that message to be sent that I think I can speak on behalf of the board, that is our expectation. And I know there's a lot of moving parts and I know it's like hitting a moving target. But I think our planning needs to be in that direction. And that should be what our goal is.
I like the second, third, fourth that I think. But also just remind everybody who's listening, and I think our population has been reduced now as the hours go on, is we all need to behave ourselves now through Day of the Dead, through Halloween, through Thanksgiving, through Passover, through Christmas, all those gathering times, we need to behave ourselves I just canceled the family Thanksgiving that I was looking forward to, and we realized that was really dumb for me and our 3 kids and their families to get together because we don't want anybody to get infected. But once we all do that well, we can reopen school. And I'm so hoping that we all behave ourselves, so hoping that in January, we can begin a hybrid model where our kids and our staff who want to see the kids, who want to be, and we had teachers on earlier today, you know they want to be with their kids in person. So let's all behave ourselves and let's, do the right thing. And I just second, I know we want the kids to be back. They want to be back. There's the learning piece, but I really worry about the social emotional piece because that's the trauma that, we can gain back some knowledge, but the emotional piece is the one that hurts for a while, and hopefully we can recover from that. So let's all behave ourselves and then let's get back as soon as possible.
Any other trustee comments?
I think that's it.
We have 12 minutes. Debbie, make it good.
Are you there, Debbie?
Budget. 12 minutes for budget. I read through all the numbers and they look good.
Wow, she yelled so loud you woke me up.
Did I yell?
Okay.
It's all right. We all needed it.
Okay, this report is just a little update on our COVID funding. So these are the different pots of money that we've received, or we're going to receive. There's 5 different pots. The first pot is the SB 117, which is the first funds we received. Those funds have been received and have been spent. They mostly went to PPE and hotspots. That's before any of the other funding came through.
Mm-hmm.
The next pot is the elementary and secondary school emergency relief. And then the last 3 pots are all part of learning loss mitigation funds that have been divided into 3 different pots. The Federal CARES Act CRF are the funds that is the biggest pot and is mostly student directed. And those funds need to be all used by December 30th, which is a very tight timeline. Then we have the Proposition 98, which was also December 30th, but they have extended it to June 30th, 21. And then there's the GEAR funds. The GEAR funds and the ESSER funds both have allotted funds for the private school. St. John has applied, so we have some funds put aside for St. John's. Karen? So here's just a quick snapshot of what we've spent and what we've spent it on. So this is the funding that we got in the very beginning. It was a $23,000. This was actually for Fund 01 and Fund 03 before the charter school closed. So that was mostly all hotspots and PPE supplies.
Debbie, what does amount encumbered mean? That we haven't spent?
That means that we've done a purchase order and we've made the obligation to purchase it, but we haven't received it yet. Okay. We haven't paid the bill yet.
But basically that's all done. Spent, done, paid.
That's spent, done, paid. Okay. This is the ESSER funds. We still have 144,000 left in this pot. These funds are, this is the one pot that you could spend a lot of on the PPE. The other pots, you can't spend all pots on PPE supplies. So I've been saving this one mostly for that need.
Good thinking.
And this is our big pot. The left column where it says amount spent, that's what we've spent so far. A lot of it, most of it is encumbered at this point. All of the encumbrances have to be received before December 30th. And we have a remaining balance of 176,000. If those funds are not spent by December 30th, they will take them back.
So
we will have no problem spending them.
I was going to say.
we have some in reserve right now for anything that'll come up. And most likely it'll go to staffing.
Good.
Great. But that's what we have left there.
Can I ask a quick question on
Sure.
third down, additional staff to support distance learning? Just a quick 12-second What did we do? What are we doing rather?
We have different ones. One section is a 0.2 FTE for nursing.
Okay.
We have additional staff in the elementary. That's
Right.
helping with distance learning. There's actually 3 different staff members that are coded there for the first semester of the year.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Debbie, was that the additional teacher as well? Was there an additional teacher that we added
Yeah, at elementary.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's only the first semester because we can only
Let's spend it by the
December
30th.
30th, so we can't fund the whole year.
Right.
So that'll come from somewhere else.
Correct.
Okay.
And this is the Prop 98 funds. So far, we've only spent a little bit there towards special education. This pot here, I'm trying to hold on to as long as I can, hoping we still have this when students return. And most of this will go to mental health services and counseling.
Okay. All right.
This is the gear funds. We haven't received any and we haven't spent any. That's just the encumbrance for St.
I'm
John's.
sorry. Makes sense that we haven't received it, so we haven't spent it.
Well, that's not always the case, you know.
That's true. We haven't received it,
Yeah,
but
we
we've
know.
way spent it. Yeah.
That's it.
Debbie, thank you. Everything that you present to us is so clear.
Yes.
So I just wanted to do a quick summary.
Thank you.
So in
Thank you.
2021, we'll still have $95,000 left that we have till 2021 to spend,
Right.
and $217,000 till 2022. So we'll have a little over $300,000 left to help us get through all the needs when students do return.
Great.
Hopefully more, but yeah.
And we have a lot stock. Am I muted? No. We have a lot stockpiled in terms of PPE and other things for when students return. So a lot of that has already been purchased. So
I thought you had bought stock.
Yeah, we bought stock.
We were hoping
We
that
bought
the
stock in
market
it.
was-
Stock in the stock.
Make money.
yeah.
A big problem with the funding is that you can't get the supplies right now.
Right.
A lot of things are back ordered.
Yeah, we have Chromebooks that aren't here yet. So
Do you foresee like those big plastic shields and things at the desks? I mean, what like when we go to hybrid?
potentially in spots if we're still working on all that. So yeah,
Okay.
I mean, who knows what it's going to look like. But
Plenty of things to spend money on.
follow the guidance and the science. So
Okay. Nice job, everyone. 5 minutes to spare before we just extend the meeting.
Oh no, we're done.
Yes, we're done. Thank you, everyone. And we are going to return to closed session. We'll do it quickly.
sure,
It's later than we thought it would be when we said we would do that.
it's actually
So
super quick to finish. So yeah.
So
Yeah.
do we go back to the closed session Zoom,
If
Karen?
yes, that would be the one you'd want to go to.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks everybody for coming. We had a
Yes,
good turnout tonight. Thank you.
Anybody's still on? Thank you to those people that are still on.
I
Good
know.
night.
It's amazing.